Oh, okay, and we're live with our first blab for The Secrets of the Keys. And I am Robin Jay, the writer and producer of the movie. I am so excited to have my special guest here today, Kate Emmerson, a decluttering expert. Kate is the author of Clear Your Clutter and Ditch Your Glitch. Two separate books. That sounded like one big, long, fabulous title. Thank you so much. Okay, hold them up. Ditch Your Glitch and Clear Your Clutter. And as much as I resisted, once I spoke with Kate when we were getting ready for her segment for the film, and I was trying to find her core message, and she explained clutter to me so comprehensively that I cleaned my closets. And I'm working on this clutter. So, Kate, why don't you share with our listeners, because we will record this and post it everywhere, the three kinds of clutter.
Can I go back and just say perhaps the definition of clutter, which is more like the umbrella, and then we can put the three underneath it?
Honey, you can do whatever you want.
You're
the star.
Oh, you're drinking coffee because it's morning. I'm drinking water because it's evening in South Africa.
I would be drinking wine if it was evening in South Africa.
Yeah, well, I've just been doing a massive detox. I'll tell you about that.
That's right. I saw that on your Facebook page that you...
Yeah. So let me tell you about clutter. So for me, if you look in the dictionary, it talks about disorganization, untidy, mess, too much stuff in the corner of the room. And whilst it does cover those things, I think that definition is very limiting. So when I started working with this concept professionally, and probably 11 years ago, wrote my first course titled Spring Clean Your Life, which dealt with all three types of clutter, I thought I need a proper definition. And so I worked with the definition that clutter is anything, actually, or anyone, that no longer serves us. So clutter is anything that no longer serves us. And now sometimes people go into a panic. So just this last weekend, I was chatting to 100 women in South Africa, and you could see their eyes go a little bit big, because some people think, oh, that sounds very superficial and very much like you're just using, especially when it comes to people, and, let me just flick you off my shoulder. I've had enough of you now. I don't need you anymore. And it seems quite like I'm using you. And I don't mean it like that at all. So Robin, I just want to check, because there's almost sounds like we're underwater. Is the sound clear?
It's beautiful.
Okay, perfect. So it's probably just my own eardrums. So what I mean by in terms of anything that no longer serves you, I always talk about how do we be in the present moment. And every spiritual tradition has always taught that. And it's become a very popular topic in terms of mindfulness and meditation. I mean, a picture of someone meditating was even on Time magazine. Ariana Huffington from Huffington Post has got her book Thrive, where she talks about, being mindful and presence of mind. And so for me, this concept of clutter is, if we are hanging on to anything that no longer serves us, it actually means that we're not allowing ourselves to be our magnificent self. We're not allowing ourselves to be here. We're not allowed to... So I'm just saying that Bob also says there's an echo. So we've got anyway, I've got no external speakers. I can hear that echo in my own ears.
I'm plugged in too. Any suggestions?
Yeah.
Now I hear echo.
Yeah.
Any suggestions, Bob?
Okay.
You sure you have no external speakers hooked up, or? Yeah.
No, I mean, this is how I always do webinars and stuff.
Okay, Bob's coming in to help.
He's back. Bob's back.
I can't hear you, Bob.
Sorry, I had my mic muted. I would say each of you to independently take out your earbuds and see if you hear anything.
Yeah.
Are you hearing anything at all right now? Okay. I don't know what it's from then. Okay. Sometimes it's Blab or in beta, so I don't think it's anything on either of your end. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, I'm plugged into my laptop, so there are no external speakers other than what I have. Okay.
Cool.
Bob handy? He just pops in to help.
Fantastic. Bob on Blab. So what I was saying is that, if we are holding on to things that no longer serve us, I'm talking about serving our magnificence, our brilliance, our ability to shine our lights. So sometimes if we are wanting to step up in our lives and we're wanting to step out in the world in a bigger way, we may very well be called to be letting go of all sorts of things that are no longer serving us, because they could be linked to the past. They could be linked to something that keeps us stuck. And so under that, I then have the 3 types that you were talking about. And that is born from my past, my experience, the things I've studied, what I love, what I'm passionate about. So the 3 pillars are body clutter, emotional or mental or spiritual clutter, and then of course the physical clutter, the stuff that we can see, touch, and feel. So those are the 3 types. So that was a long answer to your question.
Yeah, but it's the 3 different types of clutter are very different. Do you find, Kate, that most people who have an issue with clutter have an issue with all 3 kinds, or is it usually one area?
Do you know what I found is I say that they're a triangle, and what happens is I think we shift and change between them all. So in my experience, yes, if we've got one, it's normally showing up in another area because our lives are intertwined. So nothing happens in a separate compartment to anything else. I think another interesting question is people ask, well, which one do I start on? So should I start with my body clutter or the emotional or the physical? And I think that that's a very personal question because it might be driven by what the context of what's going on in your life at the time.
That makes sense too, because for one person, I think when you go through a major life change, like say you get divorced or you move out of your parents' home or you become widowed or a widower, those are huge, significant shifts. At what point after a life-changing episode like that would you want to attack everything? Because so many times, like especially with a widow, they hang on to everything because I remember you said that we'll attach an emotion to a physical object, like, oh, this was my mother's coffee cup. I could never get rid of it. And it can crack. Yes. And I'll glue it back together because I think this is mom and it's not. So talk about that for a little bit, how we do that.
So I don't think that there is a given rule as to when and how somebody should get started. I think it comes from an inner sort of an uprising where you just go, oh my God, I've had enough of whatever it is, whether it is the body, emotional, or the physical clutter. So, talking about somebody who's been widowed, because, even something as magnificent as getting married, that's another big life change, or starting a new job. So at any transition point, you might want to reconsider everything around you. And we'll talk about that more when we get into the 3 different types. But I remember when I had my Spring Clean Your Life course, I was taking a group of corporate women through a 3-month program. And one lady had lost 2 husbands, and the second husband that passed away had died 3 years before. And still in her cupboards, in her bedroom, were all of her husband's things. She'd never taken one thing out. She'd never given anything away to his daughters. They had some shared children. And through going through the course and by starting off in other areas, so we started off with the bedside table and then the bedroom. And she said she cried all weekend, but because I was educating her on the kind of bigger aspect of clutter, she knew that this was keeping her stuck, and finally it was time. And that was 3 years. My mom, when my father passed away, I was there in the UK with her. And literally within less than a month, we went through all of his clothing. She was ready. It's what she wanted to do. And I remember bringing back so many of his beautiful Pringle shirts to South Africa to give them to my amazing gardener, because they were the same size and they were these beautiful shirts and they lived on another body. It was so amazing. So there is no right or wrong, Robin. I think it's a question of how sick and tired are you of your own story, and do you know? Because for me, when I start off with people, well, that's it. We get stuck and we go round and round and round, and we're so busy complaining and bitching and moaning about everything that I see we've got somebody else joined. Mr. Wonderful has joined us.
Hi, Mr. Wonderful. Thank you. Isn't that nice? You see the little pictures up on the top, their little avatars.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So you can see who's here. Lori Park. I'm listening. Lori Park's trying to join us. She doesn't have her camera on her computer, but she's trying to join us and is having trouble. So,
So yes, it's how sick and tired are we of our own story. And the other thing that I teach right at the beginning of my process, so in my book, on my courses, when I sit with someone in their home or Skype, is I think I'm quite an unusual character, and not many people love tidying out or getting their life up to date, okay, whatever aspect it is. So I always ask people to think about what's the bigger picture, what's the bigger intention. Why are you wanting to do this? Because when you're knee deep in 20 years worth, or even just 2 years worth of filing, that's bad enough nowadays, you want to give up. You just go, oh, it's all too overwhelming. Let me shove it all back in. I need that cup of coffee. Someone's knocking at the door. I can't do this now.
Right.
And we just go, we numb down, we go into overwhelm, and we go, oh, I'll come back to it again. So when people have a bigger picture, a bigger vision or an intention as to why they're doing it, because for me, the reason for getting rid of your clutter, so all three aspects, is so that you can create some space. Because
I'm writing this down because I know someone who's a hoarder. And so the reason to do it, you have to look at the bigger picture.
Yes. So in other words, the reason you need to let go of any form of clutter that might be the one that's holding you back is in order to create some space in your life. When you have got some space, nature doesn't like a vacuum. So then it can send new things, new ideas, new people, new clients, new, whatever it is that is new and abundant, it can come in when you've created space. Whereas all too often what we do is we go, I want to know that I've got X. When I've got X, I'll let go of Y. And it kind of goes against nature. Right. Actually, it requires deep trust and deep emotional maturity to let go first. Create the space, create a little bit of room for spirit to come and move, and then you can create the next thing. Whereas we're all too busy stuffing every single aspect of our lives too full. So for me, the concept of clutter is, yes, it might be about tidying your closet, but it's a very spiritual concept for me.
Okay, so nature can send in new energy, and what else did you say? New
energy, new life force, abundance, possibility, creativity, just everything that has got flow and energy, as opposed to clutter, which is stuck, stagnant, heavy, weighing you down, past. And we want to bring your energy into the present so that you can create a really interesting and inspiring, compelling future.
What could I say to someone that I love dearly who is almost a hoarder? I'm guessing probably more of a hoarder. And about 15 years ago or 12 years ago, he lost his mother, and it moved him. And he said, oh my God, I look at my apartment and I think, what if I was going to die, or what if I was going to move? If I won't take it with me, I need to get rid of it. So he'll always say that he's getting rid of a hefty bag every day or whatever, but he's bringing in more crap all the time too. And he almost threw away a check in the mail. So now, like, half my mail doesn't come in the house. I stand at the trash can in the garage, boom, 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 and I just chuck it. If it's nothing I need, if it needs to be shredded as, from the bank or something, I bring it in and I shred it immediately right in the laundry room by the garage. So,
and I saw how you tidied your garage after we met on set.
Oh my God, it's crazy. And you know what? My brother was just here for Mother's Day, and I mowed the lawn and I asked him to please spray the weeds. He's like, I hire that done at my house. And I'm like, well, you're not home. Would you please help me? And so I finished before he did, and I swept out my garage and moved a few things out of the way. It's not bad, but every time the wind blows, the leaves blow in and it gets, dead little cucarachas and stuff. And so I just swept it out. And now every time I come and go, I'm like, God, this looks so nice. So I'm really, you've affected me deeply working with you and knowing all this, but I want to help this person. I gave them a copy of Clear Your Clutter, a copy of your book. He was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is, I need to get
So he's still talking to you?
He says, I need to get my act together. Right. So, yeah, he absolutely loved it, but he's working. So like full time almost. So he only has like 2 days a week. And one day he goes to church and he sees his friends, and he is always very social. He would rather go to breakfast with his friends than stay home and clear the chaos. Right. So last week, his ex-wife and his very dearest friend, the one he goes to breakfast with every week, they had both passed away 2 weeks before. So he had back-to-back funerals Wednesday and Thursday. So now he's filled with this new resolve of, I am going to get rid of this stuff. If I'm not going to move it with me, if I'm not going to, I'm like, whoever would have to clean it up after him, if he was the one to pass, being considerate of your family or your friends.
the legacy. In the book, I talk about what's the legacy that you're leaving. And often that is a motivator for some people, but people don't give a damn. So what was your question about?
My question is, he's had, several life-changing incidences, losses, big losses, close personal losses. And he sees you're gone in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, he's like, why would I want to waste one precious minute cleaning or clearing?
Yeah, sure.
How do you overcome that with someone? Where is the nugget of sense that's really going to get him to take care of this?
So I think there's two parts to the question. The one is that we can't make somebody see, understand, or feel something until the moment they're ready. And I think that is something I've really had to learn, because it's so easy for me to go, but this is so cool, this is so exciting. So I remember in my 20s when that's why I love the body clutter. And I'd love to get more into all of those three types. I see we've had a couple more people join. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. So it's that component of, if you do the work yourself, so if I do the work for me, you do the work for you. If people are truly interested, they will come and find us and say, wow, you look like you've got some things together. You look like stuff has shifted. Kate, wow, you've got so much energy. You're so light. Look at this. So you kind of become the beacon and allow it to emanate from you. I've had to learn that. So rather than making other people understand, and being all evangelical about it, sometimes you've got to just be it. And I've really had to trust that. That's the spiritual part. When other people are ready, they will come to you and go, okay, I'm ready. What can you teach me? And, it's so interesting because, I haven't had a full TV program yet. I've been on TV many times. So I'm always fascinated by the clutter programs and hoarding programs and makeover programs. And sometimes when it comes to hoarding, that at the nth degree, sometimes they do kind of, when I say need, I use that word lightly, family interventions, because there can absolutely be a health hazard,
right,
or there can be environmental hazard. And it gets to the point where someone is so incapable of making the decisions on their own that it has to get so bad and so out of control that then that responsibility is almost passed on to somebody else, and other people feel they need to, step in and take control.
Right.
And sometimes people need to get that. So it really is that question of, if people ask us, you can say, this is what you're doing. So I always say, be careful if you give someone my book, because you might, for those of you that have just joined, that's the copy of my book, Clear Your Clutter, and it's just been launched in the USA. So sometimes it's about holding back a little bit and not so much imposing what we think somebody else needs, and rather speaking it in terms of our own lives and letting them come to us, because then there is wholeheartedness and there is 100% buy-in, because sometimes people are really happy being stuck where they're stuck. And when people are ready, they will find me, or they'll look at you and go, who helped you? And you'll go, Kate, you need Kate's book.
Right.
So I've had to learn to step back a little bit.
It's like the old expression when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When they're ready, really ready to take action, they will. So okay.
And let me, can I illustrate that with another example? My mom knows that I talk about it all the time, bless her. So my mom lives in the UK, and she's in the house now that she bought 13 years ago after my dad passed away. So, been married for 46 years. She buys her first home on her own. She's been living there. And about 3 years ago, she started chatting about, maybe it's time to downsize. So she doesn't have a huge home, but she has 4 bedrooms. She had someone that helped her clean. Now she doesn't, and she's getting older. She's 78 this year. And, one brother lives in England, the other one didn't. I live mostly in South Africa, not anymore. And she just thought maybe it's time. So I was going there 2.5 years ago for 7 weeks over December. And I'd come off the back end of a really, really big hoarder's job. So I'd spent 15 days in this person's home, a team of me and 6 people. It was massive. It was
15 days hard. With 6 of you?
Yeah, it was a really, really big job. There were boxes in her garage that she had not opened for 12 years. So it was massive. It really was a TV show. Yeah. And so by the time I got to England, I was absolutely knackered. I was wiped out. I was going, oh my God, is this what have I gotten into? Is this what I'm doing? Is this my life? I'm knee deep in other people's crap. Like really, it was the top end of anything I'd ever done. But I also knew that I was available to help my mom declutter so that she could sell a house. So I have a course called Shift Your Property, and declutter, get rid of all the stuff. Don't take it with you, because people put it all in their box and they say, when I unpack it, I'll declutter it, and I'll take the new energy to my new home. I teach, let it go before you move. It'll cost you less to move or put it in storage. And you've got the stuff that you want, love, and respect to take to your new home.
Right.
So I'm with my mum for 7 weeks, so I can get carried away. So when I get there, I say, Mum, I'm here for 7 weeks. My idea and intention was that we go through your entire home. And she looks at me and I said, and you know what? Right now, I don't give a damn. I'm tired. I said, but I'm here for you. I said, now you imagine how hard this is. I'm leaving it up to you. I'm here. We can watch TV every day. We can go for walks. We can go out for lunch. We can drink lots of wine, have coffee, play with the cat. We don't have to do anything in any cupboard. Here's my deal. You need to ask me if you want any help with anything in your home. We can do one drawer. We can do one room. We can do the whole flipping house. It's up to you. And I was like, there, it's over to you. And I managed to zip it for the whole 7 weeks. There was once I walked into the garage and I was like, Jesus, Mum, you've got so much crap in here. And I was like, oh, sorry. And literally we did 2 drawers that 7 weeks. Now, this year, beginning of 2016, she's really ready. She's like, now I'm ready to move. So I had a gap and I wasn't sure if I was coming to America to help launch my book, but I'm coming there in a few weeks. I wasn't sure if I was going to Goa to go and co-write another book, but I had a month gap where I didn't have any specific engagements in South Africa or anywhere else in the world. So a month where I could be working online. And I surprised my mum. So I booked the ticket on the Thursday night because I wasn't going to America or Goa. And I surprised her and I met her at King's Cross Station in London. And she looked at me and she was like, what? My brother was in cahoots. And she said, what? Is that you? And she said, how long are you here for? I said, a month. I said, and I have come to help you do your house. And she's like, oh, that's so amazing. Because she was always so worried from 2.5 years ago that I wouldn't come and help her do it again. I said, Mum, when you're ready, I will come. So I said to her, this is my gap. Because what's going to happen is when you're ready and you think you're about to put on the market, I'm going to be too busy. So this is my gap. And we did her whole home. I mean, it was just amazing. We went from every single bit was touched in that house. I left on the Sunday. She promised to have called the estate agent before I left. She called the estate agent on the Friday. I left on the Sunday. On Monday, when I got to South Africa, the estate agent came round. By Tuesday night, the pictures were up on the website. By Thursday afternoon, she had 2 cash offers. She landed up getting, that is the power of being ready. So she was ready. She was like, yes, I'm ready, Kate. Okay, it was easy. And we got to drink wine and watch TV as well. And it's that whole concept of she was ready. Right. Everything was ready. Whereas 2.5 years ago, I would have dragged her kicking and screaming to clear it out. So she knew the concept of it. She wasn't ready. This time she was ready. And literally within 2 days, she had 2 cash offers, which means they didn't have to get mortgages. They didn't have to sell their current homes. She landed up getting £10,000 more than her asking price.
Because the house looked so clean and decluttered and nice.
And her energy was ready. So, people walk into a home, they might not physically open your cupboards. They might not be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clear anything, but they still get a sense of this home doesn't feel right. Right. And it might be perfect location, perfect number of bedrooms, perfect price, perfect everything on the outside.
Funky energy.
Just go, energy. Exactly. And most people don't think that they have that capacity, but people know that when they're looking at homes. So that was just to illustrate with your friend, to get back to what do I say to my friend who's a hoarder? I believe that when someone is ready, they will seek out the help they need. You can plant a seed, okay? But be wary of sometimes I think we put our needs over other people's.
I'm sure. So back to the 3 kinds of clutter: body, yes, mental, physical in our space. There are 4 reasons why we hang on to it. That's how you got me. Okay. That's how you got me to clean my closets. And can I just add, I have a guest bedroom that I use as an exercise room. There's an elliptical and some weights and stuff, and 3 panel doors. I've sent you pictures of it, and they're mirrored wardrobe doors, so I can watch myself work out. And I didn't realize they were just packed because I didn't need the room for anything else. So all the excuses. And when I cleaned that out, I didn't realize it, but the next time I got on the elliptical, I actually felt like the drawers were hanging straight. They weren't bulging out before, but the energy was definitely bulging out. And to this day, when I'm on the elliptical, which is parallel to the doors, I feel the difference in the space, even though everything is closed up and tight, just knowing that it's not jammed in there. So I love I posted my pictures, by the way, on my Facebook page at Robin J and at the Key Movies on Facebook. And you can see the before, after, and during. So many hangers. Oh my God. I collected hangers for so long. I like fancy retail hangers with the clips and stuff. So, okay. So the 4 reasons.
But before we do that, I just thought, because this is my first time on Blab. So do we need to tell everybody, if they want to phone in, how they do that, just in case it's somebody else's first time here?
Well, Blab puts a little icon for our chat. That's how people are finding us and joining us. And we have Neat Wizard. Oh, Neat Wizard. Oh, see, I took a minute to actually look. Neat Wizard Janice. So do you want to join us?
And we've got James Thomas. So people then can just, if they want to, they can either type a little question in the chat box, or they can come and join the open seat and ask a question.
Correct.
But so again, I want to, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, someone named Neat Wizard Janice is probably also into decluttering. So
I'm sure.
Feel free to jump in that empty seat, okay, if you want to, and join us. So, okay, back to the 4. What?
The 4 reasons. I want to go back again, though. So before, I just want to give a little explanation of the 3 different types of clutter, but without even going into them. Can we do that?
Sure.
And then I'll talk about the 4. Neat Wizard is a bit shy. Oh, come on, Neat Wizard. Okay, so the body clutter, when we think about this, the definition of it's anything that no longer serves you. The body clutter comes down to this thing that we live in. And body clutter for me is anything that steals your vavavum. So it's anything that steals that sparkle in your eye or your vitality. So it's an energy thing for me. It's an energy concept. And I always ask people to rate their energy and vitality levels from 1 to 10, with 10 being, I don't know if you've got them in the USA, those adverts by the Duracell bunny, and the little bunny is kind of hitting on its drum. I don't know if you... Okay. So 10 is like high energy, high vitality, sustainability, that wonderful vibe. And 1 is obviously feeling like a slug, you don't want to get out of bed.
Right.
And so it's all of those components about what in our body and our energy is no longer serving us. And I can speak for hours on that. And that's why I've just done the body detox. Whereas the emotional clutter is anything that steals your power. Because the emotional and mental clutter is not stuff that we can see. It's quite nebulous. And we always feel it, here in our solar plexus. And so it's anything that steals your power or makes you feel small or bad about yourself. That's how I describe in general the emotional clutter. And then the physical clutter is the easier one. So you might be conning yourself, but it's literally then everything that you can see, touch, and feel around you in your environment, your desk, when you open your cupboards, your car, your office. So that's the easier one. It's often one of the hardest to tackle, but it's the easier to notice. Whereas the body and the emotional are difficult.
Right.
So when I was looking at them, I thought, what are the main reasons why people keep stuff on all different levels? And as you said, this is what got you. So the 4 main ones are guilt, fear, insecurity, scarcity. And in my book, what I say is if you put all those 4 together and you kind of 10x them and they go off at the end of the scale, they will become full-scale hoarding that we know. Either we know someone like your friend, or we've seen it on TV, or we just know people who live like that. And in my world, I talk about OCD is on one end of the scale and hoarding is on the other. But actually, they're kind of on the same scale because they're all to do with control and lack of control. So often people think because I'm a declutter expert, they think that I am sort of very OCD and very anal and everything has to be in neat, perfect lines. And it's, what's their other American program? I want to say Amy, but it's not Amy, where she is like everything, literally, she puts like rulers to make sure that all the shampoos are lined up in like one perfect line.
I don't know.
And that's not what it'll come to me.
That would make me uncomfortable to see that.
Yeah, and so for me, it's not about that. It's about living your life with passion and energy. And if you've got anything that's lurking around in your life that shouldn't be there, it's going to drag you down, of whichever one it is. So yes, guilt, security, fear, scarcity, put them all together, they become hoarding. So those are the 4. So we can talk about one of them or all of them, or I don't know what you want to do.
Well, I think guilt is probably one of the most common types of, or the most common reason why people hang on to stuff. What we mentioned earlier, that you put an emotional attachment onto a physical thing, and then you think getting rid of it would be like you don't love that person anymore just because it was theirs. The example being mom dies and you hang on to her stuff. That's not her. That was just her stuff. In fact, I have to tell you this about that. My mother was moving when she and her husband retired, and they were moving out to Sun City. And she said, go take a look in the backyard if there's anything you want. So there was a shelf, and in the shelf were 2 boxes of her jewelry, and it was mostly fashion jewelry. So in the one box was one of those antique style, or I should just say old fashioned, like they wore in the 40s and 50s, the little tiny women's watch on the expanding bracelet.
Yes.
Okay. Little tiny face about this big. And it was either platinum or white gold. I don't remember. And it was in the $2 box. I snatched it up. I thought my mother had lost her mind, right? And I ran into the house and I said, Mom, your good watch is in the box. And she goes, I've always hated that. I can't see it. The dial's too small. Take it if you want it. And I was like, if it means nothing to you, it means nothing to me. No, my stepsister ended up taking it, which at least made me feel better, instead of her selling it for $2. But the thing was, it wasn't dear to her. And I said to her, this was a long time ago, I said, if you died and I found this in your dresser drawer, I would wear it the rest of my
life. Exactly.
I would have worn it the rest of my life.
We have so many misplaced
hell, I can't
emotions.
see what time it is. The dial's so small. I would have had the same issue with it that she did, but it would have been dear to me because it was my mother's.
It would be mom's watch.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
So we have that guilt, like we don't want to get rid of anything. And then the other thing that I think is really in that vein is when a kid goes off to college. So many parents turn their room into a shrine. It's just like it was when Jimmy went off to college. Or I know my late uncle had kept his wife's bathroom, all the perfume bottles, everything just exactly like she was coming home tomorrow. It's really sad that we tend to do that, attach that emotion to the physical things, and we have to get over that. And like you said, can't do it till you're ready.
Exactly. And the guilt, I love how you say guilt is the most important one. Maybe it's the one that's most relevant for you, because they're all just as important.
You mean everyone doesn't think like I do?
Everyone doesn't think like I do. No, because for other people it might be the fear of so fear why they keep stuff is because maybe they're not loving their life. Maybe there's something that they're hiding from. Maybe they're wearing a mask. So often people will have a lot of stuff because that's the outward appearance that they show to the world. So I'm successful, I'm doing well. I don't know if you know the expression in America, keeping up with the Joneses. Is that an expression you use? Yeah. So often, so it's important for me to have a lot of stuff, or people are so fearful of their lives that they go out shopping a lot. Whether it's, I know in America, coupon shopping is a big thing, whether it's just, I've got an empty hole inside me. So emotionally, so I need to go and fill my life with stuff. So they're bored, or they're drinking too much, or they're taking too many drugs, or they're out shopping because they're actually not living their life. They're not living with purpose, and they're not living with energy. So for other people, it might be the fear, but the guilt, I remember sharing the story with you about my grandma's clock, but I just want to give you 3 aspects to the guilt. So the one is absolutely keeping things from our parents or our grandparents, so something in our lineage, because we think it's important and it attaches us to our ancestors. And often it's that concept, when we're born, one of the very first things is we'll go and give someone a christening present. So often our birth is linked to, let me give you something to show how appreciative I am that you are in this world. So often we attribute our love through gifts. Mm-hmm. And if you then link it to the 5 love languages with Gary Chapman, for some people, gifts is actually one of the love language. So it can become quite an important thing when you talk about the stuff that you've chosen to keep love and respect around you. So, if your dad has given you something and that's your love language, and, that gift is the most important thing, you're going to hang on to it until your grave, and then, maybe one of your children or somebody clearing out your house has got to deal with it. So we hold on to things because of misplaced emotions, even when we hate it. So that's what I always teach, is if you're going to keep it, then make sure that you also love it and you use it and you respect it. And most importantly, I talk about is, does it add value to your life? But the guilt part also comes in. So it's from our parents holding on to stuff out of misplaced emotions. The other one is also when we have children. So often so many of my clients, so you talk about college, but there's something that happens before that. So little Johnny and little Mary's coming home with all of these 500 gazillion pieces of artwork, and every single piece of artwork is part of their development. It's part of their creativity. It's part of how they're showing their little souls to be in the world. And so what happens is people land up having pieces of artwork crammed and shoved into every nook and cranny, or it's in the garage, but then they're getting wet and they're getting ruined and they're getting, and people go, what am I meant to do with all this artwork? And so I always say to my clients, maybe every 6 months, say to little Johnny, just have to pick a name, which are your favorite 5? And then if there's a mom chooses favorite 5. And if there's a dad around, dad chooses a favorite 5. And so you've got the ones that you love the most. And nowadays, it's so easy with this. Just take a picture of all the others and digitize them and say, Johnny, 2016, age 5.
Right.
And you've got a way to then preserve the memories without keeping all the stuff. Because we don't always have to have it in a hard physical copy. Especially nowadays, it's so much easier, because we've got the technology at our fingertips. But the other way that guilt comes in, because people always laugh, is that concept of unwanted gifts. So someone, a well-meaning friend or somebody else gives you something and you go, what the hell? What the hell are you thinking? And so often then we go, so you've been given a teapot, and you hate the flipping teapot, but you go, no, but Robin's coming for tea. I must use Robin's teapot. And it comes from that sense of we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But so I understand that.
Or
So,
if
you
it's
think, well,
if it's an expensive
sure, and
gift that you don't like, but it was dear.
And yeah, exactly. But it's like, so, and then it's that thing of, well, what do you do with it? So do you sell it? Do you go and exchange it? Or do you, because you never want to hurt the person who's given it to you feelings. But I always ask people, when you give somebody a gift, what is your expectation and assumption around that? So if you put a lot of thought into it, but once you've given it, you've given it. The energy around that gift actually should dissipate because you've now given it, and it's actually up to the receiver. But we have so much attachment, because that's what clutter is. It's attachment and holding on past its sell-by date. So we have so much attachment when we give something that we often reverse that. And so when somebody gives us something, whether we hate it or not, we think we have to keep it out of a misguided sense of guilt and loyalty. And so those pivotal times. So I encourage people, if you understand the value and how decluttering can resonate in your life. I'm hearing a bit of echo in Robin's.
I got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Now I lost my train of thought.
About hanging on to a dear gift. We put our emotions into what we're doing, what we
so what I'm saying
someone
is
to do with our gift.
Yeah. And so what I was saying is ideally and annually, so that's once a year, it would serve us well to go through every single thing that we have chosen to own, whether it's in your home, in your desk, in that pantechnicon of stuff you've got in some self-storage, because that's a massive challenge nowadays. The self-storage industry has skyrocketed. If I wasn't so attached to the integrity of my work, I think having a self-storage business would be a great business model, because people just go, oh, well, I can't deal with this. Let me shove it into storage. And people then waste money, like actually paying for the storage fees, and then they forget what's there, so they never have to make the decision. So if you can't do it every year, or that just feels like too much energy or effort, if you don't quite understand the intricate workings of why it's good to let go so that you make space, when you have those pivotal moments, so when you are moving home or someone in your family has passed away, those are great pivotal moments to go, okay, this is time, I want to reevaluate. And so for me, the bigger calling and the bigger motivation to sorting through our stuff is because if you don't sort through your stuff, whatever your stuff is, body, emotional, or physical, what it's saying to you in the world is that you don't believe it's possible for you to change. So if you take, for example, just your wardrobe, and I remember with you, one of the hard things was letting go of all those business suits and stuff that you had. So what it's saying is that I'm never allowed to be more than who I currently am. So I have to have all that stuff that I had, because what it means, I may not be able to replace this. I may not fit into it again. I paid so much money, therefore I have to keep it. And so when we are choosing not to be present to what we really love, like, and respect in our lives, we are not giving ourselves the opportunity to believe that we are capable of change. And that, for me, is one of the reasons why it's so important to clear out our stuff. And Robin, I know we've only got about 15 minutes left, but I have to tell you, so this year I'm on a quest and I've gone location free. So people who are being a little silly, or they're just winding me up, or they go, oh, so do you mean you're homeless? And I've written a couple of blog posts about this, but literally I have got every single thing in terms of my clothing, my technology, my toiletries, everything that I have travels with me. And people go, yeah, okay, but you've got everything in storage. You can go and look at my website and you can go and read the blog post. I have 3 boxes in storage. So I literally sold up everything, sold my car. I didn't own the home currently. I sold my last home a couple of years ago. But I literally got rid of everything. And I have books and copies of our movie, The Secret of the Keys, that are as stock inventory. That's a different thing. That is with my assistant. But everything is with me. And so that whole location free, because my physical, the stuff that I own physically went down to an absolute bare minimum. And I call it the Minimalist Manifesto, because I'm traveling the world and I'm wanting to bring my message to the world. Because that side, because remember you said, like, which one should we do first and how do they work? And I believe they're triangles. So my physical life is so simplified and so sorted that what it did was it gave airtime to the other 2. So my body clutter, I had time and space and energy to look at that, as well as the emotional stuff. So really looking at what are my own beliefs, what are my fears about possibly moving to another country, spending more time in America, how do I work more in Europe? So because there was none of the physical stuff kind of for me to lose myself in, and I lived pretty much as a minimalist anyway, but because that went down to such a simple degree, the others came up for airtime. Does that make sense?
Well, I know that you went on this fast or cleanse, I should call it.
Yes.
And so there is a bad echo. I am so sorry. Let me turn my volume down just a little bit. But I think because I'm wondering the correlation, obviously, the fact that you went and became such an extreme minimalist that the others came up, that's why you are now doing this cleanse, because your home is taken care of. Now you're looking at your physical self. How about the emotional baggage? Is that coming up too?
Well, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying about the stuff around the fear and what am I capable of and what really are my dreams and how do I really want to be living. So I talk about living location free and I talk about traveling the world a lot. And so now here I am with my lovely big bright colored suitcase and I can go wherever I choose on a plane. And now it's like, do I really want that? What does this mean? What does that say? I don't have a home. And so the little voices go. So it's been a very interesting journey because I talk about them holding each other hostage, that triangle, or they help each other. Mm-hmm. And so that's so often why people keep stuff in their physical space, because it almost blocks them from being able to look at the other stuff. Because there's 5 negative costs of clutter, all types of clutter. And, each of these is a chapter. So the one is time, the other is money, reputation, creativity, and energy. And each one of those has we can go into each of those in depth. We could be here for 10 hours. So it's just one of those things that now my energy is free to focus on other things. So they kind of spiral between each other. Whereas when people have got too much stuff in their lives and they're kind of suffocating their lives, or they're stuffing things down their mouths, they don't have the energy, the capacity, the wherewithal, the space to look at what's really going on. So that's how people keep themselves stuck.
Would you say,
so I always talk about...
Would you say that it requires some discipline?
Sure. Look, Robin, I think everything requires discipline. So either you are taking your life seriously, but I don't mean not having fun, but you are paying attention to the emotional status of your life and what you really want, and are you living your life, and are you following your dreams, and are you being true and authentic to yourself? Having clutter will stop you doing that. It literally, it blinds you. It literally fills every space. So there's no space for you to breathe or to create or to believe there's something more. Absolutely.
It's so funny when you first signed on to be in the Secrets of the Keys, which I can drop that in toward the end of the call here, the Vimeo link for the Secrets of the Keys. And it was so interesting because I was talking to one of the other experts who was going to appear in the film, and he had a very dramatic story. And I said, I've got this amazing decluttering expert who's going to be in the film. And he said, why would that be spiritual? I don't understand what she's doing in the movie. And we've discussed this because the average person doesn't see the scope, like you said originally, the big umbrella that ties it all together. You can't live light, live large if you're weighed down by your body clutter, your physical clutter, your emotional baggage, all of those things to really have. And the more I know you and the more I talk to you, the more spiritual it all becomes. It's just mind blowing that getting rid of your crap helps you to live a better, richer life. It's not about the things. And one of the things you answered for me today that I was going to ask you was the difference between fear and scarcity mindset. Because scarcity is like, oh, I might need that, which is kind of fear generated.
Yes.
But the fear that
you're talking about,
talk about that for a minute.
So the fear is more around what will people say? It's the masks. It's the people playing small in their lives. It's all of that. Whereas the scarcity is about there's not enough. What if I can't replace it? The scarcity also comes often from maybe you grew up poor, maybe you or your parents or your grandparents grew up in a depression or war, or you've had to move from your country, or you've lost everything, or you've had you've lost everything through a business, and you know what it's like to have nothing. So literally that scarcity mentality versus the abundance mentality. Mm-hmm. Whereas the fear is about trusting in the universe. The scarcity, the opposite is about abundance. Abundance. Yeah. And then the insecurity, that's just so that we've covered that. That comes from I've got hiccups. I need things in my space around me to kind of prove that I exist. So I have, therefore I exist.
Right.
So that, and it's not saying that anything's wrong. So it's like typically you'll walk in and it might be the person that's got lots of awards up on their wall, or they've got lots of collections of things, or I tell the story in my book about Joy, and she really was an amazing scrapbooker, but we were clearing, so they wanted to fall pregnant and she wanted to scrapbook, and she had this little spare room, and it was so full to the brim, nobody could get in. And we were actually doing it for TV, and there could only be me and Joy and one TV camera. Like normally they have two and lighting, and we're like, oh God, we can't get in there. And I'll never forget, I put my hand into the cupboard and I was on the ladders and I pulled out this wad. I was like, we've got money. Because I always say, every single time you clear out clutter in any form, all of the three, you will find money. You'll either find physical money, or you'll find money in the form of lost policies, or you can sell the stuff you don't want. Anyway, I'm going, Joy, we've got money. And actually she had 12 years worth of stubs from movie tickets that her and her husband had been to since they were married. And she started like covering her mouth and laughing. She goes, that's every movie we've ever been to. And, it's there sort of waiting for the rats to eat it. And we were trying to clear out this cupboard so that her scrapbooking stuff could be in, and so that eventually it was going to be a nursery. And actually, when I saw her a year later, I think it was 3 to 4 months later, they'd actually fallen pregnant, and it did become the nursery. And it's that whole concept of she liked things around her to prove that she existed. And when I spoke to her, I was like, but what if you allow one to be many? So she was able to then take one of those movie stubs and scrapbook it beautifully and make a more dedicated, purposeful memory to the 12 years of their movie, rather than having this whole stack shoved in the cupboard that you're not respecting, it's not adding value. So people are quite lazy when it comes to choosing why they're keeping to still own something. Mm-hmm. So I say, you spoke about, is it about discipline? We need vigilance in our lives. We need vigilance to bring our lives up to date so that we can generate more.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I decided to clean out my closets, I flew my cousin out from Ohio because I knew.
And I was so upset because you really should have flown me from South Africa, but there we go.
In a perfect world, that would have happened. So it was an excuse to have my cousin come for a visit. But she was so great because I guess I was suffering from scarcity mindset. I thought I've been working for myself for 13 years now. And when I speak, if I'm doing a presentation, I wear black pants, a black top. I haven't had pantyhose on in 13 years. And so that's why I wear slacks instead of a dress. So I have a closet full of dresses that I'm probably never going to wear again. And I'll wear like a silk Chinese style jacket. They're really pretty when you're up on stage. They kind of shimmer. And so that's my new style. But here I was with this closet full of work suits, like you mentioned.
I remember.
Yeah, Calvin Klein, Dana Buckman, beautiful jackets that I used to wear with big rhinestone pins when I was speaking. If you can't captivate your audience, you could at least dazzle them so they don't glaze over. And
But I remember us having that conversation when we first chatted about my segment in the movie, and it was like, we hold on to that old aspect of, well, what if this doesn't work and I've got to go back to corporate?
And so Debbie said to me,
that's the step.
Debbie said to me, she goes, Rob, we're throwing everything down in different piles. What's being thrown away, what's being given to Goodwill, and what's being donated to Safe Nest for women who are going to work. And every once in a while, I'd hit a suit or a jacket, and I would go, I don't want to give this up. And she said, Robin, imagine some lady could get a job because she looked so nice in the interview wearing that coat. And now you're really paying it forward. The styles were classic, timeless. And I did dig one jacket out of the hefty bag. I wasn't ready to part with it yet because it looks great on stage. But
so that's the thing. When I work with clients, one of the things I do is the moment that we've finished, we get the stuff out of there. So either I get my charities to come and collect it, or so, because otherwise that, you wake up and go, oh, what about that jacket? What about those shoes? What about that book?
Well, she went to take a nap. She went to take a nap, and I retrieved it. But I have to tell you, it's so infectious because Debbie took a nap, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot my dresser in my bedroom because we were doing this big closet. And I went in and I did my closet and I did my dresser. And by the time she woke up, I had a few more hefty bags filled with stuff to donate or get rid of. And it really, once you start getting rid of the stuff you're never going to use, and that it's like breaking the seal. Once you've broken that seal, I'm throwing away stuff every day. I think I emailed you that last week that I just chuck it now. If I'm not going to use it, it's gone.
I just want to end on that. So people say, how have I written my book? So it's always that thing that every single one of us can do step by step by step by step by step. Okay, so that's how I work with people, that you can do today. You just have to do your bedside table. Okay, you've done that. Right. Today we're going to do your bedroom. Okay, today we're going to do just the folded stuff. So we go little bite-sized chunks at a time. For other people, you got to go balls to the wall. I mean, yes, balls to the wall. Do you know that expression? And you've got to just go all guns blazing. And that's when I come into people's homes, or I come into people's offices and we do productivity days. We've got 10, 20, 30 people. I mean, I've done 55 people in an office, and everyone's working on their desks, on the filing, on their marketing department. But sometimes it actually really helps to just go, okay, I'm doing this. And it's like ripping off the plaster. And you want to go in, you want to get down and dirty, and you want to come out the other side in a couple of days, and you want to be done so that it's a complete life transformation. A bit like like the TV shows that you see. But, often that just depends, whereas everyone can start small and everyone can take a little step at a time. And if you do that with diligence and with regularity and with some sense of kind of routine, but also almost ritual, because it can be very ritualistic, because you're readdressing every single aspect of who you are, who you believe to be, from the inside out. And that was why I did that 7. You can see my juice box from earlier. There's the green remnants. I must say, these are the most amazing bottles we've got in South Africa. It's a recycling company, and they've got all these beautiful little plastic things. So that's my water bottle, and they're so great. They're so funky.
We have the glass ones with the silicone sleeves so you can hang on to them. But I get spoiled sometimes when I need one in a hurry. I just grab. But let me just mention that I posted the Vimeo link here, but it won't show in the recording. So if you're watching this on a recording at a later time, it's just vimeo.com/on-demand/the secrets of the keys. Or you can, if you're watching us now, you can go to that link that's up there with the trailer, the little promo clip. It's less than 2 minutes long. You can watch a sneak preview on thekeymovies.com. It's The Key Movies. Movies is plural. And we have The Key Movies on Facebook. And I am at The Key Movies on Twitter. And Kate Emmerson, you're at? Kate Emmerson with 2 M's, Emmerson.